Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, prepare your ear holes for the best wrestling part, the hard-hitting wrestling show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hard Hitting Wrestling Show. I'm Ovi Muniz, and I have Hector Vasquez. It'll be just the two of us in our special edition as we're going to break it down, the takeaway with you. But first, breaking news that we found out earlier today, just about like 30 minutes ago or so, that Asuka and Charlotte Flair will have a match for the Raw Women's Championship on Monday Night Raw. And that's one of a possible 3 championship titles that's going to happen this Monday. We do know it's official for the tag team match that's scheduled with Sasha Banks and Bayley versus the Iconics for the Women's Tag Team Championship. In NXT, Sasha Banks and Bayley, they survived their match, as I could say, by defeating Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox, which was a fabulous, most awesome main event that I've seen in a long time in NXT. And then the third one is possibly going to be Shawn Benjamin and Apollo Cruz for the United States title. That has not been official yet, but we will be talking about that particular segment later on the show. But first, let's review on what had happened on NXT, shall we?
What the? Is there an echo?
Oh, man. And their opponents, the team of Tyler Breeze and Fandango Breezango.
All right, guys.
Next week, Keith Lee will defend his North American Championship against Johnny Gargano and Finn Balor in a triple threat match. Because whomever walks away as the North American champion will face you, Adam Cole, on July the 8th. Champion versus champion. Winner takes all.
That's right. Winner takes all. So we could possibly see a 2-belt champion by July 8th. And Hector, we talked about this on our last episode about being the 2-time champ. I know Jace is not really of a big fan of 2-belt champions and stuff, but it's kind of leaning that way, don't you say?
Yeah, it definitely is. And if that's the route that they decide to go to, I'm all for it. I mean, if the WWE could do it on the grandest stage, then why not see that? I mean, they took a chance back in the late 80s when Ultimate Warrior did it. You know what I'm saying? In an era in which you didn't expect that type of thing to happen. And then now to the new era now where you're seeing people like Seth Rollins doing it, so, and then even in the women's division, what I'm saying, starting with, Becky 2 belts, now we got Bayley 2 belts, so why can't we have that in the NXT rankings? We got so much great talent there, they're the future of the business. Why can't we see that? At least if it's just one time, let's just see it, let's see who is the best of the best.
I'm just curious to see if there's going to be a new type of championship belt in NXT, and do we consider the men's division being a world title? Is NXT actually a world title? Who knows? Maybe that will add on to maybe something bigger than a Grand Slam title, as we call it. But it is interesting to see that we have Keith Lee, who is the North American champion, Johnny Gargano, who is the first Triple Crown winner in NXT. Then you got Finn Balor, who's never held the North American Championship, but he is a former NXT champion, And Adam Cole's looking from the outside, which shattered Finn Balor's record to be the longest reigning champion as of right now. So TikTok to Adam Cole all the way to July 8th. But speaking about TikTok, then you also have Karrion Kross, who has a match versus Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed was bold enough to go on television and say, hey, Karrion Kross, calling them out for a match. And yeah, that was quickly made official. But one thing that Karrion Kross is aware of is that broken timer that he gave to Adam Cole. He walked by with Scarlett, and you only see the feet moving towards the hourly glass. So what's not to say that even though Karrion Kross has a match next week on NXT, but so does Keith Lee, why not to say that maybe he'll do something before the match?
It's possible. Keith Lee is making a statement, I think, to Karrion Kross to say, you know what, you're not part of this equation. You know what I'm saying? You just stay away from all this. You know what I'm saying? Because Keith Lee is focused on trying to get in that NXT title. But we can't. I don't think he needs to try to overlook Karrion Kross, because what he's done, especially the Ciampa, he is not somebody to be playing around with right now. And I think Bronson Reed is going to find that out pretty quick.
Well, talking about Tommaso Ciampa, ever since he lost the match, we haven't even heard from him at all. So let's see what boils down to him to return to NXT, or if he does come to NXT. Who knows? I know there's a big shake-up going on in the roster for every brand. As you see, we had Charlotte on NXT. Now you've seen the tag teams of Sasha Banks and Bayley on NXT on Wednesday night. Who else is going to be on NXT? And in fact, will there be any NXT superstars, temporarily moving to Raw or SmackDown? So there's so much going on there. And then the tag team division in NXT is just hyping up. You have the Imperium, who are the tag team champions, defeated Breezango. And as you saw on the video, it was just hilarious to see Breezango come out with a remix of the Imperium. That was, I laughed so hard, and it was just the beginning of the show. So you already knew things were going to get interesting just from there on. Anyways, let's, during the match, we had Indus Sure, if hopefully I'm saying that right, and only Lorcan and Danny Birch came to help Breezango complete their match. But unfortunately, the Imperium became victorious. And I wouldn't be surprised if this match turns out to be like a fatal four-way tag team match, because it looks like it's going that direction.
Yeah, I think so. Imperium is gonna see that it's not gonna be easy holding those tag team titles with all these tag teams coming up now. So we get a little shake up in NXT for the tag titles. I think this is gonna be pretty interesting to see that. I like this.
Right, and then one more before we move on is the Velveteen Dream and Dexter Lumis. Lumis wants to be a tag team with Velveteen Dream. He drew a picture of them being the tag team champions, but Dream is calling himself, he's a solo man. Do you think that's going to last? Will Lumis end up changing his mind and actually be a tag team?
I think that, these two can maybe try to work out as a tag team for a little while. That's if Velveteen Dream decides to allow this to happen, because he knows he don't got a world heavyweight title shot anytime soon. So why not, try to shock the world and team up with somebody that you really don't know and see what you can do with that. Right.
It's going to be interesting to see next Wednesday, NXT on the USA Network, 8:00 Eastern time. It's going to be wild. I enjoyed Wednesday. I'm just anticipating for the following Wednesday to come up and see a good show. And it's been a long time since we've seen that caliber since NXT TakeOver, really, because this is what boils down to, another type of NXT TakeOver. So we'll see. But hey, let's move past to our main objective here on our show. And there's something that we had talked about a couple of days ago that I don't think we were in depth of what our message was. And we'll start off with Christian. As you know, Christian and Randy Orton had their little something going on. But let me play that video clip before we get started.
No. I just talked to Edge. This ain't cool. You're not doing this. You don't need to prove anything to anybody. Let it go.
Oh my God!
right. So Christian interrupted Randy Orton, which started that little chaos. Orton invited him for a match. It was unsanctioned, dude, because he is not medically cleared. Okay, but with unsanctioned match, there's no rules, no regulation whatsoever. But you know, Big Show did talk to him, see how he was doing, what was his decision. Even though Big Show kind of hinted like, I know what I would do. But then here comes Ric Flair, who wasn't there from the beginning to tell him, no, don't. And you saw that video. What can we learn from this, Hector? I know there were some things that were left out on the show that you want to get your point across.
You know, starting off with Christian, first of all, I think he just needed to mind his own business. I mean, I understand his intentions were good. And, you know, in life, sometimes, you know, we want to stick up for, you know, our family or friends, you know, but sometimes we got to be able to, you know, pick and choose our battles. And I think Christian should have known better what he was getting himself into with the type of person Randy Orton is. It's not like he just met Randy Orton yesterday. He knew who he was. You know, he's known him for a long time. He knows the type of person Randy Orton is. And when you go through life knowing somebody like that, do you really want to get yourself into an altercation knowing that you physically cannot do anything about it, you know? And so he allowed Randy Orton to control the situation, you know, by telling him, you know, well, if you're man enough, you know, or are you just a coward? So, you know, he allowed him to manipulate him instead of just going in there and just defending his friend, you know, and just leave it at that, you know, and then just listening to everybody else's, you know, what they have to say. It's easy to say something to somebody when you're not in that situation at that moment. Oh yeah, you know, I know what I would do, but you're not that person at that moment. So, you know, Christian had to figure out what he needed to do, and I think he made the wrong decision, you know, because I think Randy Orton even told him that when he was getting the neck brace put on him, you know, that was stupid of what you did, you know, this is your fault. So I kind of agree with Randy Orton. It is kind of Christian's fault for putting himself in a situation, because I mean, personally, if I can't medically fight, why would I want to get into a fight with somebody? So, you know, that's just kind of ignorant on my part, you know, of knowing that I can't do it. Why am I going to go ahead and do it? Just going to hurt myself even more.
Right. And if you tune into hhwshow.com, I wrote a small article about the incident, and pretty much what I wrote here was the moral of the story is you got to know when to pick your battles, you know, when it's deemed necessary. Do not stress and get in the best. Don't let stress get the best out of you. Give yourself time without analyze the pros and cons before you make that decision, and consider everything, you know, every possibility that there is. Because if someone is giving you a great advice like Ric Flair was trying to do, you know, those are warning signs. And if people are trying to give you the warning signs, you should be able to listen, hear them out, and weigh your options, you know, and you got to pay attention, because if you don't pay attention, you make a quick assessment and dive right through like Christian did, then it's whatever you're doing is going to fail, you know. So anyhow, just think about what you're doing, man. Think about it. Don't hesitate. Just take your time, you know, and especially if you're angry and someone's putting you on the spot like that, you got to clear your mind. I mean, how many times that you've been in a situation that you're so upset and you say things out of anger, and then technically you'd be like, you know, I didn't even mean it, you know, and stuff like that. And this is a perfect example. It might not be an altercation when you say something, you offend somebody, but it's just actions. And in the WWE, action speaks louder than words, you know. And Jay said it the other day. It's a show. Yeah, I got it, that you're going to have some type of match. You know, of course, nobody's going to ever walk away, but you could take this, you know, put it as a, you know, again, this is the takeaway, but it's a lesson learned. You know, it might not pertain to you, but you never know that in the future you might be in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely right. You know, you got to, like you said, you got to keep a clear head about what you're doing in any situation, because it could be a matter of life and death, you know, and us being, you know, veterans, you know, of the service, we know that firsthand, you know. You got to be able to make the right decision, because if not, it not only costs the lives of you but others. So, and out in the civilian world, the same thing. The haste decisions you make can cost your family something. And you don't want that.
And speaking about decisions, Apollo Cruz and Shelton Benjamin were approached by MVP, and I want you to hear this out real quick and see if you could pull something out of this.
There's a difference between being a fighting champion and a smart champion. So I know you're bold, man. You'll take on any comer, anytime, any place, and that's commendable. But it's not about that. It's about fighting the right person at the right time. See, the whole thing is being a fighting champion. When you take on all these people, that's how you find yourself burning out.
See, the way I see it is, if I'm not a fighting champion, then I'm not a champion at all. So I appreciate your offer.
Wow. The advice that MVP gave him, I mean, was it his ego that decided, you know what, no? Or is it something that maybe he doesn't trust MVP? Because, he's not the only one. I mean, Drew McIntyre didn't trust MVP, and he was the champion. I mean, maybe because he's already a champion, he don't need nobody. And I think Apollo Cruz was in the same way. Look, I'm already United States champion. I made it this far on my own already. Why do I need somebody to guide me now? That's the way I'm seeing it, probably on Apollo Cruz's side. But if I go on MVP's side, maybe he has something up his sleeve. But when you hear those words, it was like, look, maybe I'm looking out for the best for you. You know what I mean? Don't burn yourself out. And pretty much, hey, let the fight come to you. Don't go to them, because you're the champion. People should go after the champion. And that's almost something similar to what what's her name said, Becky Lynch. Remember that? So does MVP got a point, or does Apollo Crews got a point? I mean, what's the deal there?
I think they both got a point, because from MVP standpoint, you can see it from two different ways. Okay, because there's a saying that says the people with the best advice are usually the ones who have been through the most. And MVP is in that category because he was United States champion for 343 days when he had the belt. So he knows what it's like, going through the challenges of defending that title, trying to keep it around his waist for as long as he can. But at the same time, you can see him as an unsolicited advice, okay? Giving unsolicited advice, I should say, because that's usually more about the person who's giving instead of the person who's receiving it. So that could be more like MVP saying, trying to get the benefit of this advice to Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews saying, I got this. Well, do you really got this? Because this is your first title, your first single title. You're still young. So you're still inexperienced when it comes to title defenses, just holding a title, or what it means to be a champion. At least MVP has that status as a United States champion. So you could go both ways with this, because I do agree with MVP, saying that, you can get burnt out. You try to do this every single day, you can get burnt out. I know you're trying to give the people what they want, However, is that even a good thing to do? Because, you can get burnt out, and then next thing you know, you lose focus, and then you're going to find yourself as a former champion as fast as you was a champion. So, you have to. So, we could look at it from different angles from both of these guys, So I think, it's hard to say, is MVP playing the good guy here or the bad guy? Right.
I mean, and I think in social media, they call it a tweener. You're good and bad. You're in between. So whatever he decides at what particular segment or so, he could be. I think he's a bad guy with Bobby Lashley, because that gimmick between him and then going against Lana, then you turn around, now he's trying to be supportive for Apollo Crews. So it's just crazy. Or maybe he's just covering himself, so where if one turns out to be a bad apple, he could fall on somebody else. So that's a good strategy on his part. But hey, let's look at it on the other side with him, with MVP and Shelton Benjamin.
Things really aren't as bad as they seem. I can get you another shot at Apollo Cruz. This time for the United States Championship.
Now, this comes after the match when Shelton Benjamin lost to Apollo Cruz. As you can see, Apollo Cruz cheated his way to victory. We'll most say that was good for him because Shelton Benjamin was trying to do the same thing. But you want to be a fighting champion. You don't want to be a fighting cheating champion. You know, there are some standards in there. But here we are. Now, is MVP being the bad guy like you were talking about?
No, I think this is MVP listening to what Shelton Benjamin said prior to his match against Apollo Cruz. Because Shelton Benjamin said you should really be taking MVP's advice seriously, okay? Because I've been where you are, and I've been that young, hungry champion to make a name for himself. Shelton Benjamin said that. So I'm sure MVP heard that, saw the match, saw him lose, and said, you know what? Since you're going to tell Apollo Cruz that he should have listened to me, but now I'm coming to you and take your own advice to heart, and now you should listen to me. See how that turns around sometimes? People like to talk and say, you know, well, you should have done this, or, you know, or I could have done this, like what Big Show was doing. So I think Shelton Benjamin put himself in that own predicament. He put himself in his own situation by saying, you should have taken his advice. Well, now are you going to take his advice? So you got to take your own advice. See what I did there?
I take everybody's advice. Gotcha. So, hey, I think the opposite of Apollo Cruz to Shelton Benjamin, just because he is not a champion. He doesn't have a title around his waist. And so we're like, oh, you're going to get me that United States title? Bet. And if I win, guess what? I'll be on your side. I got you. No problem. You can manage me. You know, and Shelton Benjamin is not a rookie. He is a veteran, and he's been there. He's been in the business for a while. So, but to take it back to Apollo Cruz real quick, he is not a John Cena. So when you want to be a fighting champion, you got to build that status quo. You know what I mean? Just because you get the belt doesn't mean, well, yeah, you are the champion, but you still got to prove yourself that you're a true champion. And just defending it every week to random people, that's not the case, you know, because we've heard that story when AJ Styles went against Daniel Bryan, and Daniel Bryan told him, look, you know, the belt is prestigious to win the Intercontinental Championship. And he compared AJ Styles, look, when you was United States champion, who did you defend it with? You defended cats that you know, barely had any type of longevity in the business. You know, so they didn't stand a chance, such as Ricochet, Cedric Alexander. Now you got Apollo Cruz as the United States champion, but how long would it last? In my opinion, it's not going to last long. And if the championship will be this Monday, I predict that Apollo Cruz will lose that title this Monday. I believe that, you know, or unless he wants to cheat his way again and again, then we'll probably find ourselves Apollo Cruz changing to be the heel. You know, because now he's frustrated, he's angry, and then he'll be stressed out that he probably don't give a damn about anybody. And then you might see a different type of Apollo Cruz, and not that smiley guy either. So if it's either that or this next pay-per-view Extreme Rules, we might just see a new United States champion. But I got a gut feeling he might lose it sooner than that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's all on point right there. I mean, Shawn Benjamin, when he was United States champion, he did a great job as a champion. So I think it'll fit him better to have that title around his waist, you know, than Apollo Cruz. But yeah, I don't see this reign lasting too long. You know, you got the taste of your coffee. Now it's time to empty the cup and give it to somebody else now.
Sounds about right now, man. I need to get myself a couple. But hey, man, before we go to our next segment real quick, I got to see this video one more time.
What the? Is there an echo?
Oh, man.
Oh, man. Man. I just can't help it, man. I mean, truly, I think they did Imperium a favor. Maybe they should have a remix. You know, have your version in NXT UK, but on the United States, you got yourself a remix.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, it's like New Day's probably like, whoo.
Everybody was like, who is this guy? Even the Imperium was like, what? But
I think Breezango did a good job, getting everybody's attention off guard to open up, NXT that way. So that was pretty funny. It just almost reminds you of Damian Sandow when he did stuff like that. So, that's the entertainment part of it.
I miss that guy, man. But speaking about the Imperium is a faction of NXT UK. Walter, and I think there's one more guy that's missing. So there's 4 of them in the Imperium. But as you see here, we see the British, I think they're called the British Strong Style. So that's how they first started taking over NXT UK, almost similar to the Undisputed Era. We have here the Lucha Housefly. I'm sorry, maybe not. Hold on. There you go. So pretty much, is having the faction good or bad for WWE? And as I continue going through the list here, we also had the Riot Squad back in the days. We had Rusev and Aiden English with Lana. Then we had Sanity. And I think the best faction that we had is these guys here, the Shield. Then you had the old school Balor Club, which AJ Styles was left out the picture, but he was over there on the right side. Then you have the New Day, which is to me the second best. No offense, I love the New Day. I'm a big fan of theirs. And then, of course, you have the Undisputed Era, which many could say we could argue which one's better, Undisputed Era or the Shield. Like I said, their gimmicks are so different, but so unique, and then this is what could be formed for MVP. Could it be this way? And as you notice on what's going on in our world today, with the Black Lives Matter and everything else, All Lives Matter, and a lot of difference of political stuff and non-political stuff, we seeing these trends of factions that's going on in WWE now. We did call it a while back of needing something like this, because pretty much a year ago, everyone was pretty much individuals, and now we're building this faction here and there. And I got a feeling, and this is my opinion, that ever since AEW started, I think WWE is reacting, and this is something that we had in the 90s as well with the NWO, the LWO, and I kept saying in the last few weeks, I wish the LWO, a new version of LWO to come back. And this right here, like Selena Vega, I thought maybe she was going to do it, but now egos are getting in the way. So we don't even know if these people are going to last that long between Andrade and Angel Garza. But what is your take on having the faction in WWE?
Okay, I just want to say that for me personally, I think the founding fathers of the factions will be the Four Horsemen. They did a very great job back then, and it worked for them. They were able to grab gold, and I think throughout the years, wrestling in whole, whatever organization it was, saw that it worked for them. You had a lot of big names, big egos, but it still worked. But of course, times change, and you had to keep up with the times. And so, when the NWO came around, it started with the Outsiders, and then it grew. Then you get all these big names in there. To me, the egos start clashing. And then when you start growing bigger and bigger and bigger, like the NWO did, then they wind up, parting within themselves, becoming the NWO and the NWO Wolfpack. So you had a lot of that going on, because there's going to be a lot of friction going on. Too much egos, too much big heads, too many chiefs and not enough Indians within that kind of faction. But if you keep it small between the 3 and 4, I think it works best that way. You see it with the New Day, the Undisputed Era, the OCs. You see it works that way. The Shield worked for a long time, even though, they went their different ways and they became successful on their own, but then they still came back together for a brief moment and still made it successful.
Right.
To be honest with you, the factions that we got going on now, and with the times that we have in our world right now, I just hope and pray that WWE kind of evaluates how they do these factions, okay? Because you have to keep your eyes open on what's going on, okay? Look at Seth Rollins, look at MVP, and look at Selena Vega. We do not need we don't need division in a situation that we're dealing with in the world right now. Okay, if we're gonna create factions in the WWE, we need to see a mixture. And right now, we're not seeing that mixture. Okay, there's too much racism going on for the WWE to separate this. Okay, if you want to show unity, then let's start mixing these factions. Okay, let's start showing different ethnicity in these factions, because we're not seeing that right now. Okay, let's call it what it is. Okay, and that's going to cause, that can cause problems in the long run with viewers, especially people who don't really pay attention to wrestling, but they're going to find something to complain about or to argue about, and we don't need that. I mean, the Undisputed Era to me is probably the best faction right now. You know what I'm saying? They dominated so much. I mean, they probably dominated a little bit more better than what the Shield did. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion.
I mean, they done it at NXT. They haven't switched brands yet. So
Right.
we'll have to wait and see. And even though as much as I wanted them to be on Raw, I just gotta something when we started planning this out, something told me that maybe they'll just head down to SmackDown, because there's not really a faction going on there right now.
Right.
So why not them just stir the pot a little bit over there, even though I'm still wanting that dream match again between Seth Rollins and Adam Cole, but we'll see.
And we could probably see that down the line sooner or later, with Raw versus SmackDown, if that was to happen, if they would go under the blue brand. So yeah, it's possible.
But yeah, we could go back to Selena Vega when she did have the crew, and Austin Theory somehow couldn't click with Andrade and Angel Garza, especially being so young. These guys are veterans and stuff, so no one really took the time to teach Austin Theory. And I know I posted it on Twitter and I put it on hswshow.com that I saw this group as a Blood In, Blood Out movie. Austin Theory, being the white guy that he is, was like, yo, I might be white from the outside, but I'm brown in the inside, Holmes, but it didn't happen that way. But anyways, there goes my prediction. But I saw something awesome with Zelina Vega's crew. But then they kick him out. Now you only have Hispanics, It was not to say that next week when Rey Mysterio gets into some trouble with Seth Rollins, that maybe Zelina Vega and all them will come in and help him out. I still feel like that situation can still happen just because they had kicked out Austin Theory. Now their rivalry, they never went to re-engage with Austin Theory and versus the Vegas crew. You know what I mean? So why not have that battle between them? But then you're right. You're making that risk of racism. No, now you got all Hispanic versus all white people.
And then you got the blacks on the side too, trying to conquer in too. So we don't need that right now in a time of what we're dealing with as far as racism.
Here's another one. Onsi Lorcan and Danny Birch, they were offered to be tag teams with MVP as a manager, and it kind of worked out a little bit, but then they bounced back to NXT. I saw something good there, but then it turned out to be, but then MVP was not to say that he'd go and pick up Ricochet and Cedric Alexander, which they haven't been in the picture yet. You were talking about the Street Profits, but the Street Profits, they're with the Viking Raiders. They're doing good things, being diverse. How they are, being the what's that name called again?
Viking Profits.
The Viking Profits. I don't even know why. I'm so used to saying Viking Raiders.
At least the Viking Raiders are on board wanting to smoke too. So they want the smoke. They just got the red smoke.
Yeah.
But then we also see this with Tajawa. What was his name again? I'm sorry, I can't pronounce his name. The whole ninja crew going on.
Oh yeah.
So that is another thing. We got to be careful. My man got to be careful.
Kira Tozawa with the rest of his ninjas, but you know they have Jordan, who is 7'3", that will protect them all. So that'll be interesting to see because I have not in my own eyes seen him have a match yet.
Right.
So, it will be interesting to see how they'll make him to be. But yeah, you're right. So there's different cultures, but they're all WWE is pretty much segregated when it comes to faction. And in my opinion, that is a bad thing. But how's it going to turn out? Remember, Triple H was saying everything has a story. There's always a purpose for something. And it doesn't mean that their intent is to do that. But why not start it that way? Have people start buzzing because no one's really talked about it. No one's talked about it. I've listened to other podcasts. I've listened to, backstage, everything. No one's ever come up and saying, hey, did you guys notice something around here? And no one's ring the bell yet. So pay attention. Pay attention. I'm sure things will change, but then there's also this hacker stuff that we don't know about. Will they put in effect? Will all this crash down and then cause more chaos? So we have to wait and see on that. But then again, like I said, this is all a prediction, our thoughts. We're not trying to start rumors. We love the WWE. We're big fans. So let's not say that, we said that, hey, they're racist and stuff like that. That is not the case. All we're saying is we need to be aware of what's going on before we move forward. And if that's the intent for us to talk about it, that's outstanding because in today's world right now, we're dealing with a lot of racism. And people are coming out of the closet. And the only way to come out of the closet is to go on the device or on the keyboard or whatever it is and then put it out there, And people don't have the decency to talk and say things to a person's face. So
we cannot be silent with what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And we have to be educated, and not be ignorant about what's going on. We have to be educated on what we seeing and stuff like that. And we do have that freedom of speech. We just got to be careful with it, and what I said, I'm just going to stand by what I said. We have to be able to see these things, and address it, because if it doesn't get addressed, then nothing's going to be done about it. Nothing's going to change. We have to change for the better.
Yeah. Well said, my friend. Well said. Did we miss anything?
No, I think we covered it all. I mean, especially that whole advice, I really did like that. We got to know that not all advice is good advice.
That's true. That is true.
And we have to be careful who we give that power to, because it could be a poison that pulls you down, or it can help you build a platform that makes you genuinely better. So we have to really be careful with that. So, and just because the advice is offered to you doesn't mean you should take it. So,
right. Because if I tell you, hey, I think you have a good chance of just jumping over the bridge, would you do it?
Well, you didn't tell me that I will survive. So,
Hey,
yeah,
I know what I'll do.
Exactly.
But I mean, that's it. I'm not going to tell you if I'm going to do it or not.
Right.
Anyways, this concludes the show. I want to say thank you to all the listeners for watching the Hard Hitting Wrestling Show. We'll be back Tuesday at the normal time to discuss what's happening on SmackDown, what happened on Raw, and what's coming up next. Remind you that the next pay-per-view is no other than Extreme Rules. That's happening July 19th, USA Network. So we still got some time to talk about, see the developments here and there, but I think it's going to be a wild one. They need to make up for the last pay-per-view because it wasn't all that great.
Well, that Extreme Rules is my Achilles heel.
Yeah, points double in every single match, and I can't wait till we start that show and that prediction show because, man, I know Frank, he won it last year, and hopefully, we'll have a new winner. So as of right now, as we stand, we have Hector, Jovi, and myself with a victory. The top 2 people to finish on top with the most wins out of pay-per-view predictions will go head-to-head at the next WrestleMania, which is WrestleMania 37. So on behalf of Clovercrest Media, Hector, and myself, thank you for watching the Hard Hitting Wrestling Show.
Visit the HHWShow.com sportscast where you can find all the news, rumors, updates, and predictions from the Hard Hitting Wrestling Show, all 4 downs, join about the G-Men, and keys to the city. If you ever want to do a podcast, this is the place to do it. Starting at $15 a month, you can get unlimited hosting and $50 a month for the full package. Visit ClovercrestMedia.com for more information.
A big thank you to the StreamYard for their fine streaming service. On behalf of HHW crew, I am Ovi Muniz. Thank you for listening to the Hard Hitting Wrestling Show.